to this interview for quite some time. You
Well,
know,
I've been
it's been a while. We've both been very busy, but I'm so glad we reconnected. And I also wanted to let everyone know that Dr. Gibson is going to be with us much more frequently, at least twice a month. So that's going to be a special treat. So stay tuned, everyone. But how have you been, my friend?
I've been very well. I've been looking forward to this. I want to make the effort to make more of a contact and be more available. So I'm very much looking forward to being with you twice a month. And we have some dates already set up. So it'll be my time to talk and laugh and be with family.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dr. Gibson, let's jump right in. Let's talk about your, among other things, your great DVD that you have out there now. You have a million other products out there, but yes, let's start off talking about the spiritual world. Everyone, and myself included, when we saw that DVD, you know, we were mesmerized. And as a matter of fact, as I told you in our private conversation, when we were doing the numbers, it is the most watched video on Intune Premium. And so everyone who has seen that video, as I told you before, they've come to me and said, Brother Curtis, you've got to get Dr. Gibson back on the show. So let's start off talking about the spiritual world.
Spiritual World is a video that I did a few years ago in Santa Fe, New Mexico, at a conference called the International Science and Consciousness Conference. And it's a conference, I don't think they hold it any longer, but they had held it for the better part of 30 years. And it's a gathering, or used to be a gathering, of many of the scientists and researchers in consciousness and human evolution. And we all got together in one place for about a week and presented information, research, and data on what's new and what's going on in the human evolution and consciousness. And the video, I think, is about an hour and a half, thereabouts, and it goes into the phenomenon or the work I've done in trying to understand what we call the primordial state in human beings, and also what happens when humanity transforms into energy and evolves beyond this physical plane. And when a lot of people look at it, they first think, I've never heard of this. Where is this coming from? But the reality is there are a lot of things going on out there in the world that when you look at just the regular mainstream media, you don't get much. You don't really get much human evolution, consciousness, nothing on enlightenment. And so you can get the misperception that humans aren't evolving, that there is nothing going on in evolution, but nothing could be further from the truth. The reality is there's a great deal going on in the world that is hidden from us, and shows like your own YouTube, the internet, have been almost a democratic godsend in helping us connect with each other, share information, share research, and share enlightening experiences and videos that help us grow beyond what the world tells us that we are, because we're a lot more than the world tells us that we are. We all have the potential to be fantastically divine and fantastically enlightened beings if we simply embrace the reality that it is possible. And that's what my work centers around: possibility and evolution.
Excellent. And what I must commend you, Dr. Gibson, because you're my idol, because you did something that very, very few, at least from what I've seen, conventionally trained physicians do. They give up, they leave the world of allopathic medicine, of conventional medicine, to devote themselves to spiritual training, because I guess, and I could be wrong, but from looking at your work, as you just previously stated, during the course of all your years of being a psychiatrist, you saw that there was something lacking there, that prescribing medicine to people wasn't exactly solving the problem. If anything, it was exacerbating the problem. So for you to really, go within and take a stand and leave that world to help people really become cured, if you will, and not only to become cured, but to spiritually elevate. I think that there's something to be said for a person that does something like that.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. It's when I was in medicine, I ran a hospital as a chief resident, and I ran a hospital as a chief of staff, and I had my own clinic that I bought and had physicians working for me for, the better part of 15 years. But one thing that really bothered me during that time is that with all the classes and the work that I did and all the hard work and sacrifice that I did, at the end of the day, what I mostly ended up doing was giving people prescriptions, one after another. And some of the most frequent visitors to my office were drug reps. It was as though all the work I had done, all the preparation I had done was designed around writing prescriptions and giving people drugs. And I felt that in order to be true to what I wanted to do with my own life, I had to do something more. I had to do something better, and I had to follow my heart. And that's why one day I decided just to give all of that up. I haven't written a prescription in more than half a decade, and I haven't looked back since. It is something that I think that if we're going to evolve as a race, and if we're going to answer some of the hard questions of medicine and the human condition, at some point we have to stand up for ourselves and say, the status quo is no longer acceptable. We need something better. We need something different. And my gesture in leaving medicine was my way of beginning that process, that I'm not just going to accept the way things are. I'm going to work to do something different, to do something better.
Excellent. And one of the things I noticed that you emphasize from watching your work, Dr. Gibson, is you talk about healing and some of the ways, to use contemporary language, unorthodox. But we know that it's not orthodox. It's the true way of healing. When people who've come to you and instances that you've encountered where people have had the most debilitating diseases that somehow conventional medicine could not deal with, and then when you began to treat them in ways outside of conventional medicine, there was rapid healing. And what really perplexes me now is that even to this day, it seems like, and I guess we both know why, because, the allopathic medicine, it's a business like everything else. But why isn't this type of healing more promoted, in the mainstream?
Well, as you said, mainstream medicine has a goal. And the primary goal of mainstream medicine is to make money for those people who sell the drugs, who make the medical equipment, who provide services for diseases that we treat. And there is no money in healing a disease. The money is involved, or the money is made when you can treat a disease infinitely. So, for instance, a disease like diabetes. If you cure diabetes, you put a lot of dialysis units out of business. You put people who provide insulin out of business. And diabetes is one of the most complex diseases out there. So when you get it and it starts to affect you in a really negative way, there are an infinite number of problems that can offshoot from that process. So it's a good, quote unquote, moneymaker. Heart disease is another. If you cure high blood pressure, then heart disease essentially is cut in half. It goes away. And the same is true for many diseases. We won't even get into cancer or a number of the other problems that are out there. It's important to recognize that if you cure a disease, you can't make money off of it. And that's one of the main tenets that keeps medicine the way it is. You can't cure the problem if you want to make a profit off of it. And I think that prevents a lot of change. I believe personally, and this is just my own personal belief that I've nurtured over the years, I believe that in medicine we have the ways to cure everything that exists. I believe that. And I believe that drug companies and the powers that be, they don't want us to know that those things are out there. They don't want us to know that if you cure things, that the cures are something that you can actually obtain. And over time, people just stopped even looking or even thinking in terms of cure. And that to me is the control of consciousness or the control of the masses that keeps things the way they are.
I see. And you also emphasize, doctor, that it's not just on the healer, but the patient plays a very big part in their healing as well. There has to be that belief or that faith, for lack of a better term, in what the healer is doing. Because, from following your work, what I gathered is that you can go to the greatest healer in the world, but if there's not that belief or that faith there, or that actual belief that you can be healed, then anything that the healer is doing is all for naught.
That's right. I I have worked with over 20,000 people in the last couple of decades, and one thing that I've seen consistently is that most of us have the capacity within us to affect change even in the worst conditions that affect us. And most people have within themselves the ability to change and even cure uh, even the worst illnesses. And illness doesn't have to just be physical. In my work, I consider poverty an illness that can infect a family, that can infect an individual, that can be passed from one child to another, uh, from a parent to a child. I consider negative thinking an illness that can infect a person, that can infect a community, that can infect a people, and that can hold a person down or hold a person back in life so that they don't even try to move forward. Not to mention physical illness and emotional illness, but also relationship difficulties can be an illness. So that when you look at certain families, you recognize that divorce is too common in this family, or people don't get along, or you might say that the bad people in this family are mean people. You can have infections and disease affect people across a wide range of conditions that are in the human race that don't necessarily limit themselves just to disease. And when I work with people, I look at the different ways that disease and the human condition frailties affect them, and we try to find ways to help them that are not only mental and emotional, but also are spiritual.
I see. And the switchboards have gone off the chain. Dr. Gibson, we're gonna pause for a quick second here to take a question because
Okay.
so many of the listeners have asked me could they ask you a question? So we're gonna pause quickly right here and grab a question from a caller. We have a caller from the 718 area code. Caller, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes, greetings. How are you? Do you have a question for Dr. Gibson?
Yes. I actually spoke to Dr. Gibson before, and Miss Kathy told me he wasn't doing consultations anymore, so I was going
Well,
to follow up.
we got booked up 2 or 3 months in advance with consultations, so I had to take a break so I could help the people that had already signed up. I just kept taking people, and you'd be 6 months waiting for a consultation.
Yeah, she did tell me that. Okay. Anyway, two things. One, the first thing is I often have dreams of you and her talking to me. I don't know what that's about. And the second second question is, what are my spiritual gifts that can help me advance financially?
Can help you advance finance. Well, let's answer the first question. First question relates to a spiritual process that my wife engage in, where we connect with people that work with us in the spiritual world and in the astral world as a way of supporting them and guiding them through life. People have said that they've seen us appear in hospital rooms or appear in their homes or appear in dreams. And there have been a few dozen people that have said they've seen us appear to them physically and talk with them. And that's been going on for over a decade now. And we think that that's a gift from the Creator that He gave us to help us work with people. We always ask people when that occurs, is that something you're okay with? Does it scare you? And if not, we shut it down. But it's something that we have been doing for a while as a way of connecting with and communicating with people. And we've gotten reports of that from people all over.
Well, you just tell me to keep doing the chant, the miracle prayer, the great miracle prayer. I think that's the
prayer of greater miracles. I think you're referring to.
Yeah, that's
right.
it.
That's right. Prayer of greater miracles. The financial condition that you're talking about, there are some general things that I think can be very helpful for people in changing not only their finances, but the general condition that affects and creates the condition of what I call spiritual poverty. In other words, there's a physical condition in the let's call it good finance in life, holding a good job, having more money than you need, having a beautiful home, et cetera, et cetera. So let me give you a little bit of a remedy for that can help not only yourself, but lots of people that might be listening. So you might want to get something to write with.
I'm here.
Okay. There's a remedy that is an ancient alchemical remedy that used to be held in strict confidence among people who were very wealthy and very powerful. And for the longest time, it wasn't something that was given to people who were considered to be of a poor or lower class, but it's something that I give out freely now because I think it's time for more democracy in wealth and in finance. So the remedy is you take some ginger, fresh ginger root, and you grind it up with a cheese grater so that it's very finely ground. And then you mix it with some fresh honey.
Mm-hmm.
You take the mixture so that the ginger root and the honey are very well mixed together, and the ginger root is thoroughly soaked, and you prepare it on a new moon and let it sit for 2 weeks from the new moon to the full moon. And then you consume a quarter teaspoon of this every day.
Mm-hmm.
This mixture has the ability to dissolve the spiritual energy that builds up in a person. We call it a spiritual miasm that actually creates or helps support the condition of spiritual poverty.
Wow.
If you combine that with just about a quarter volume of orange peel, it also helps with the power of optimism and increases your mind's power to concentrate and materialize things that you need in your life. But it needs to be a fresh orange, and that also should be added on the new moon. So if you add the grated orange peel, just about a quarter of the volume should be orange peel and the rest of it should be ginger root. Mix it all with fresh honey and let it sit for 2 weeks from the new moon to the full moon. Keep it refrigerated and then start consuming that a quarter teaspoon a day. It will help tremendously with not only finances, but also the power of optimism. Negative thinking and anxiety and fear is one of the greatest killers of wealth in the world because it kills the idea or the concept of wealth in your consciousness. And when it does that, you can't accumulate it. You get what you need and then it goes away, or you accumulate more debt than you do wealth. This helps turn that process around.
I see. Wow. Any further questions for Dr. Gibson, caller?
Yeah, you also work with celebrities. I'm curious of, do they have, what is their karma, most of them? Do they have a karma of being rich in a past life, or do they have a more of a negative karma as far as like what you hear with the Illuminati business?
That's a very good question. Wealth tends to go in cycles in people's lives. So the people that I work with that are very wealthy, and I've worked with some people who are billionaires who have more money than they could ever work with. And you would wonder, well, why would a person who's a billionaire come to a person like me? Well, a lot of times when they come to a person like me, it's because they have surrounded themselves with people that they can't trust. And they're afraid that the money that they have is going to be taken, or they're afraid that something is going to happen that's going to hurt their business or their family. So they're coming to me to find ways to protect what they've gained. And they tend to have karma. They tend to have a very similar karma when it comes to interpersonal relationships. But the thing that is different is they have the certainty and the idea of certainty that money will never be a problem for them. I work with a man who had last year made $600 million. And his main worry in life was what he was going to do for his vacation. Because when you have that kind of money and people know it, you really have to be concerned about, well, are they going to kidnap my children? Is somebody going to break into my home? So he couldn't even sleep at night. And so we gradually discovered that he had entities around him that were disturbing the peace of his mind that he should be having. We all look at that much money and say, I would never worry in the world. But what I found is that people that have that much money tend to worry more than the average person about keeping it. And that worry about what's going to happen when you get it can actually make a person push money away subconsciously.
I see. Excellent caller. Thank you so much for calling in. Excellent question.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And please remain with us for the remainder of the show. There's a lot more to come. And we're going to move on to our next caller, Dr. Gibson. We have a caller from the 773 area code. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Greetings. Yes, we can hear you fine.
Both, Dr. Gibson and Occult Teaching. I don't know your name. Curtis Davis?
Yes, absolutely. Thank
you so much. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well.
I'm good. I'm good. Dr. Gibson, I've been listening to you, for the last couple of months maybe?
Okay.
And gosh, I've never heard anyone speak the way that you do. I am flabbergasted. I mean, it's like, wow. And I feel blocked. I'm not sure if I am, but I do. Spiritually blocked, as well as, my life is just, and I'm trying to get out of this bubble, I guess I would say. And do you have any suggestions for me?
Well, describe the block to me a little bit. In what way do you feel blocked? And I certainly appreciate your support, and I thank you for your kind comments. I certainly appreciate that.
Well, like the young lady just said, financially blocked. I feel spiritually blocked. Sometimes I get so frustrated. The first time I heard about sun gazing is through you, and so I started doing it. And I hear other people having experiences, but nothing is happening to me yet, as far as I could see. I meditate, but I'm not as consistent about it, and it's just, I just feel like, I'm ready to make this move. It's like I'm on a fast right now. I want to connect, I know I reconnect. Like one day I was in my room and I wrote you about this, and I heard this voice tell me, and this is what got me started. I heard this voice say to me, there is no God, that the creator and the universe is one. And I was like, what? It was just like I'm talking to you. That's how I heard it. Then, like weeks later, I heard this voice say, when you make your transition, why would you go to the light, walk down the dark path? And I thought I was getting ready to die because I heard that. But then I heard a couple of lectures, two different people said the same comment. Why would you go to the light, go down the dark path until you see your soul and walk into that light, which is your soul? So that started me on, you know what? It's time for you to start searching out your inner self, the essence of who you are. So I've been on this path, but it's like I do, that was the last time that voice spoke to me. And that was like last year. But this voice been with me for ever since I can remember. Because when my husband died, the voice let me know, your husband won't be here long. So enjoy him while you can. And that was like in April, around his birthday. By November 2007, he died. So this voice been with me, guiding me, telling me things. Not all the time, but sometimes I get it. So could you, and one more thing I like to throw at you. Sometimes I can be anywhere and I keep seeing these figures, but it's always like in a print of something, these faces keep popping out at me. I'm not sure if they're spirits. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if I'm really seeing it, but I do see them. So, and I speak to them. I'm starting to speak to them now, like, asking them, who are you? What are you doing here? Or what is your purpose? I don't get any answers, but, I don't want to sound crazy either.
Well, what you're experiencing is that your third eye, which is the eye that we experience vision in when we're sleeping, is partially open when you're awake. When you go to sleep at night, almost all of us see things with our eyes closed that we don't have to really have light input to be able to see. And that's because we have an eye that is inside of us that is able to see energies and entities in other dimensions. We call it the third eye. Well, most people have the third eye closed when they're not sleeping. But you're a person, and because of this life and other lifetimes, your third eye is open when you're asleep and when you're awake. So part of what you're experiencing is the energy that we only usually experience in dreams. You're experiencing it while you're awake. The entities that you're seeing are entities in the astral world, which is the world that we experience in dreams, and also the world that 80 to 90% of people go to after they die. So you're seeing people that would be called ghosts, and you're also seeing people that are living in other dimensions of reality that are communicating to you.
So you saying that these figures that I see in the wall, they just pop out at me? Like, for instance, when my grandbaby was born, I was able to know his birth because his big baby face appeared on my wall. And I told my little sister, I said, you're getting ready to have your baby within the next week. You know, stuff like that. I mean, it just pops out at me.
Well, when you look at the birth of a child, when a child comes into the world, the child has to come from somewhere. And most people come from the astral world when they're born and come into their mother's womb and then come into the physical world. When they leave, they go back out the same door. So you were seeing the baby, letting you know that he or she's coming from the astral world into the physical world and getting ready to be born, quote unquote. But we do the same thing every night when we go to sleep. We go back and forth through that same door of consciousness and re-enter the astral world. And that's what we recognize as our normal reality, that back and forth movement between the astral and the physical world. Well, you're seeing beings that are in the astral world, and you're seeing beings that are in the physical world because that eye that you have is partially open.
So how do I get them to communicate with me? Because they're just faces right now.
Well, there's a part of you that is afraid of the process, and there's a part of you that's intrigued by the process. And I say partially open because if it were fully open, you would not only see the full being, but you would see the world that they live in. And the world would be interspersed or interlaced with their own. So you might be sitting in your living room and you could see a person walking across a field with a herd of cattle while you're sitting in your living room, because that field and that person exist in the same place that you're in, but they're in a different dimension. So they're a little bit mixed. It's a bit like looking at a movie on a screen while you're in a room. And as your eye opens, you can see both. So my question to you is, do you want your eye to open that much?
I longed for it. I'm at this point in my life, I'm living for that. I'm so ready to go home, actually. I know that sounds crazy as heck because I'm just tired of all this other stuff, to the point that all I want is love. I just want to be a part of the creator and the universe. Why did this voice tell me that? And how do I connect that in my life?
Well, the voice that told you that is a person. And it's not an angel. It's not someone who is a demon. It's just a person. And the energies that I'm sensing around you, you're interacting with people who are in the astral world. Now, the thing that they have over us that we might not have on our own is that some of these people have the ability to see a little bit into the future. So they can sometimes give you information that is very helpful that comes from the future that will help you see into the future. But a lot of times they don't have that ability. So it's only available to them sometimes, and sometimes it's not. So there are times when that voice will give you right information, and sometimes he's just not going to tell you anything that you can use. If you say that you want to go home, though, the part of the process that you're missing is that in order for a person not to just go back to the astral world and reincarnate and start this whole thing all over again, your consciousness has to evolve. In other words, there are processes inside of you that have to happen so that you don't forget who you are this time, so that you don't just leave this world, leave this body, go back into the astral world and come back. Most people come back within 2 or 3 years and become another person and start this whole thing over again. If you just leave now without evolving yourself, you're going to get right back on the cycle that you've been on that has led you to this process and to the place
So how do I make that reconnection? How do I get my spirituality started? Because I heard you say the other night that you have to have something, you whether it be whatever it is, whether it's a God or Jesus or just meditating or praying, you have to have something that you're gravitating towards for your spirituality to develop. So what do I need?
Let me give you a basic process that can help in a very safe, very slow fashion begin the process of evolving your mind and your consciousness. Okay? So I want you to get a big white candle. It should be about, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches tall and about the thickness of your fist. So a big white candle with a single wick.
Okay.
Okay? And I want you to take some honey and olive oil and mix it together.
Okay.
And I want you to then pray the prayer that we have called the miracle prayer on the oil and honey, the olive oil and the honey.
Okay.
And then I want you to place some sea salt in a saucer. Actually, first place the candle in the saucer, and then place enough of the honey and oil mixture around it so that it covers the bottom of the saucer.
Okay.
And then I want you to place some sea salt on the honey and oil mixture so that it covers up the olive oil and the honey. So you'll have the candle in the middle, and you'll have the olive oil and honey around it, and then you'll have this pile of sea salt all around the bottom of the candle.
Okay.
You with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I want you to get up at sunrise, light the candle, and I want you to sit in a wooden chair while you look at the candle.
Okay.
Keep both of your feet on the floor and place both of your hands, each of your hands on your knees.
Okay.
And look at the candle. And as you look at the candle, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Okay.
Now, you're going to see the candle change because you've created a holy vessel. That's what this process does. You created a holy vessel through which higher beings that don't come from the astral world can contact you.
Okay.
When you look at the candle and start out doing about 20 minutes or so, you're going to see balls of light come out of it. You're going to see wings come out of it. And eventually, if you look at it for a long enough period of time, usually takes 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to see images form in the candle. They're going to look like cities or look like landscapes. And just write down what you see.
Okay. I'm so ready.
And once you get to that stage, email me, and I'll tell you what the next step is. But I want you to get to the stage where you're seeing the landscapes and you're seeing the balls of light. I want you to connect your consciousness with one of the higher worlds rather than one of the lower astral worlds. We need to pull your consciousness out of gravitating toward the lower worlds and pull it up more toward the light. Creating a holy candle, which is a candle I just described, is a way of getting your mind to do that. It'll make it switch gears, in other words.
Okay. And I can email you. One more thing I'd like to ask you. When my mother passed, she kind of helped me get over her death. She kept visiting me. But this one time she came to me, she said, I'm back. She said, I'm back because they said my work wasn't done yet, and she gave me this baby. And she went and laid down. She said, here, take this baby. And she went and she laid down. When I took the baby was a boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned after my dream that my daughter was pregnant with this baby boy.
So what does that tell you?
That my mother was reincarnated in this boy?
Very good.
Because the boy was born in 6 months. And my mother died June 15th. And he was born December the 17th. So he was born like 6 months within her death, if I'm saying that right.
That's
and that connection to me, I was like, okay, yeah, she's reincarnated. So him and I have this really special relationship that I don't have with any of my other grandchildren. Because I had a special relationship with her.
That's most likely your mother.
Most likely. And he see beings. He said, Iman, there's some people up there. They real tall people with long arms and long legs. I say, and he gave me their name and everything, but I don't remember the name that he gave me. But he said, they here to protect us, Iman. He said, they always talking to me. And then he told me he see shadows in my house. He came in the room, he jumped in the bed. He said, oh, Iman, you got shadow people running through here. He said, see, you see them right there? They move really, really fast.
So you're seeing images, and so is he, that come from the astral world. If you can play the miracle prayer in the background, it'll help close those portals to the astral world, because there are some energies that come from the astral world that are good and some that are not, and it's better to simply close that doorway. So if you could play that prayer in the background during the night while he sleeps, the energies will be better, and you won't have as many of those appearances, let's call them.
Now, my daughter told me one time that he just went totally off, and she said, okay, I'm sorry.
Caller, I know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gibson. And thank you, too,
we're going to have to move on. But thank you so much for calling it. Not a problem.
Peace and
And Dr. Gibson, before we take our next caller, I'm on your website all the time, and one of the things that jumped out at me is that you have something on there that's called the Spiritual Energy Analysis Workshop. And when I was reading all I could say is, wow, this is really, really in depth. Please tell us a little bit more about the Spiritual Energy Analysis Workshop. And for those who wish to view it now, go to www.hybro.com. That's T as in Tony, Y as in yesterday, B as in boy, RO.com. But please elaborate on that, Dr. Gibson.
We have a workshop coming up next month. That is a workshop that is very unique in the scope of what it does, and it allows people to see what their aura looks like. It allows them to see if they have entities attached to them, and everybody's going to get a chance to see their aura. We also have a digital acupuncture analysis system that will allow some of the people in the audience, we can't do everybody, but we'll do some people, that allows you to see what the energy in your body looks like in the acupuncture meridians, and we can tell what the balance of your chi is, how much life force you have, where the energy center of your body is, what the energy of your organs looks like. And it's really one of the best programs we've ever seen, designed to help do an energy analysis of the body. We also have one of the world's most advanced astrology programs, which can actually measure through a complex algorithm that we discovered through planetary movement. We can measure how much positive karma you have, how much negative karma you have, how much creative energy is in your chart, which diseases you're susceptible to just from the time of your birth, and which things you can do with your energy in your life just from the time of your birth that can help you move the most harmoniously through life. The other thing that we have that's new is a biofeedback system called Healing Rhythms or Relaxing Rhythms. And with that system, we can teach a person to assess the level of their relaxation while they meditate, and then teach them how to go deeper and then control where they go with their consciousness and with their brain rhythms while they sleep and while they're meditating. And so it's really a program that's designed to be, in our opinion, the next level of evaluation for the energy body, for consciousness, and for spiritual growth and development. We call it the clairvoyant medical evaluation or clairvoyant energy systems. And we're going to be holding that workshop for the second time. We did one in Phoenix a few months ago. We're going to be doing one here in High Point. We have one coming up in Montreal in July, and we have another one coming up in Brooklyn, New York. You can also find out about that on the website. And we have one that's going to be coming up in Ontario, Canada in October. So we have a number of those workshops we're going to be doing in different parts of the world. We just finished one in the Grand Bahama Isle, and the one that we have coming up next is probably the closest one for a lot of our listeners. It's going to be held in North Carolina. So if you're interested, you can sign up now. We just posted it, so we still have space for people, and we'd love to have you.
I'm so at the one in Brooklyn, New York, because it just happens to be the place that I'm at currently, my hometown. I just relocated, so I'm so there. I really look forward to that. And also, let's talk a little bit about the talisman of the most holy names, Dr. Gibson, because I've read that prior to the broadcast days, coming up to the broadcast. I've read that about 2 or 3 times, and I found it to be fascinating. And I said, this is one of the things I would like Dr. Gibson to really elaborate on when we get to the broadcast, the talisman of the most holy names.
There is an ancient system of philosophy that is a mixture of Buddhism and Kabbalah, which believes that in order to communicate with the spiritual world, there are certain animals that act as an interface between physical reality and divine or celestial reality. And the deer is one of the animals that the Creator has designated as a being that can carry through its energy, information and energy back into the spiritual world via its connection with angels. And so in ancient times, holy men would take a golden deer skin or sometimes white deer skin, and they would write in the language of the angels on the deer skin a message. And as long as a person carried that message around with them, the angels would work with that person in delivering whatever it was on the deer skin into that person's life. And it was called a holy talisman, or the Kabbalistic holy talisman. And it's one of the things that had disappeared from the world for many thousands of years until about 100, 150, 200 years ago, when some Kabbalists in ancient Israel discovered that this process was something that not only worked, but was very effective. And so about 10 years ago or so, I discovered the process and began experimenting with different types of writing and different types of deerskin, and found that if you write the name of an angel on the deerskin with the name of the person, their date of birth, birth information, and then their mother's name. You need a person's mother's name in order to be able to identify them in the spiritual world, because that's how we're known. So when an angel calls you, they'll say Mitchell Gibson, mother of Mary Gibson. Well, there's only going to be one of those, because there are 500 people in the U.S. that have my name, but nobody really has my mother's name as well with my birth information. So when you put all that information on golden deerskin, a wonderful thing happens. The deerskin then becomes a lifeline, an extra cord between that person and the angels and the spiritual world. And it allows the energy of the spiritual world and the person's desires to work together a lot more harmoniously. So it becomes like a letter that we create to the angels that is designed to help us.
I see.
When
Wow,
people hold
that
it,
is
they feel a warm, sort of vibrating energy, and they feel like, there's something going on with this. They feel the warmth and they feel the vibration of the energy that they sense is in the talisman. And when we do aura testing on it, when a person's carrying it, what they find is that there's this brilliant white scintillating light that almost looks like the light of a star surrounding their aura, because that person then becomes marked in the spiritual world as someone who's working in a very special way with the angels.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we're going to see if we're going to take another caller, Dr. Gibson. We have a caller from the 919 area code. Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there? I guess they're just listening. I don't blame them. When I hear powerful information, I sit back and listen as well. We'll take our next caller. Caller, are you there? I guess they're just listening as well. Okay, we'll move forward. We'll go on to our next caller. Caller, are you there? Everybody's just sitting back and listening. You have everybody mesmerized, Dr. Gibson. We're taking our next caller from the 661 area code. Caller, are you?
How do we go from, okay, I have this negative emotion, it's controlling my life, it's got me in this cycle.
So how do I make that reconnection? How do I get my spirituality started? Because I heard you say the other night that you